Common job descriptions, how to up your hiring game. Today's webinar is sponsored by Glassdoor and Jazz, and we have a great presentation today. I'm Katie Williams. I'm the Marketing Programs Manager here at Glassdoor, and I'm going to be moderating today's event. Before we get started, just a few webinar tips. All lines are muted, so feel free to ask all of your questions in the right question and answer pane. Just feel free to type them in and throughout the webinar, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. We will also be recording this webinar, so be sure to look for an email coming from us at the end. I'll probably send it out later today. And again, any questions you might have, feel free to type them in the Q&A pane, and we'll also be sending out the presentation deck, so you can take a look at that as well. All right. And now I'd like to introduce our great speakers. We have Eileen Wu. She's a technical recruiting specialist here at Glassdoor. We have Jenny Harding. She's the VP of People at Wedding Wire. And we have Justin Keller. He's the Director of Growth at Jazz. I'm going to have each of them kind of walk through a quick little bio, and then we'll get started. All right, I'll turn it over to Eileen first.
Hi guys, I'm Eileen Wu. I'm a tech recruiter here at Glassdoor, and I've been here since about January of this year. I recruit mostly for our engineering team, but do recruit for a few other teams like our marketing and sales teams as well. I've also recruited before for an agency, and so I've seen all sorts of different candidates and hiring managers and even job descriptions come across my desk. So I'm just really excited to talk about how we can help you guys with your job descriptions.
All right, Jenny?
Hi, I'm Jenny Harding. I'm the VP of People at Wedding Wire, and I've been with Wedding Wire since about 2009. I started as a consultant, so it's the about part. I helped establish the whole HR department and built out the team along with the entire organization from the recruiting perspective. So I'm really excited to talk about some of the things that we've done here to set ourselves apart from a job description standpoint and in recruiting in general.
Thanks, Jenny. And Justin.
Hey guys, I'm Justin Keller here at Jazz in San Francisco, and our headquarters is in Pittsburgh. And we like to boast that we've remastered recruiting, and you may know us by our former name, the Resumator. We rebranded about 2 months ago to Jazz to better represent the way our software focuses on gathering performers, collaborating around hiring, and creating harmony out of chaos. I'm extremely excited to be joining Eileen and Jenny here, who are truly the experts. So how about we move on to the agenda slide, and we'll go over what we're going to be covering today. So here's what we're going to be talking about. First, optimizing your job descriptions and titles for search. And we're going to go into effectively communicating your culture, values, your work-life balance, and the softer aspects of your company and how you talk about that in the job description. We're going to talk about attracting the right talent to your open roles into your company. We're going to talk about tailoring your job descriptions for mobile, and then we'll open up some Q&A. So feel free to submit questions, as Katie mentioned, throughout the discussion. If we don't have time during, we'll circle back to them at the end. So let's get going. First up, let's talk about getting an optimized job title and description. And to do this, you need to think like a search engine, and that might be a little bit obvious, but it's important, and I'll tell you a little bit about why. Going on the next slide. So one of my first job titles was at a very start of the company, and it's kind of one of those, you get a fun title, and my title was the Archduke of Communications, which is cute, but it's a pretty tough job to hire for because no one's actually searching for Archduke of Communications roles. So I'll let Jenny tell us a little more about why we should be avoiding gimmicky titles like that.
Sure. So we at Wedding Wire see this as a stop off in people's careers, not necessarily the last stop in their career. So we want to make sure that the job titles that we set accurately reflect the work that the people are doing, the skills that they'll be gaining while they're here, and for them to be able to market themselves appropriately for that position on their own resume. So we actually look at it from kind of a backwards perspective, that we want to make sure that this information translates in the public. So very much like you said, it doesn't really, you can't search for that job and be able to find it somewhere else, then you shouldn't have that as your current job title.
Also, going off of that, just the great thing about recruiting in general is that there's no right or wrong way to do it. Before I joined Glassdoor, our HR recruiting leadership wanted to be playful and experiment with creative titles. We use terms like warrior and guru and ninja in our job titles and our job descriptions. While it didn't really affect our applicant flow or the quality of our candidates, we did realize from the candidate's perspective, it'll impact if they find our job or not on Google or LinkedIn or Glassdoor. So a candidate will not think to search talent warrior or software guru, but they're going to be searching for terms like recruiter or engineer. So as a department, we decided to shift away from the creative titles to the standardized titles solely for SEO purposes. In terms of location, so here at Glassdoor, we're located in Mill Valley, which I'm not sure if many people are familiar, but that's in Marin County in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we're not in the most ideal spot for a lot of software companies like in San Francisco. So we wanted to be qualified as the Bay Area, and we'll advertise that for non-local candidates who wanted to apply for our positions. However, we didn't want to lie to candidates by saying that we're in San Francisco and have them apply, and then for them to realize that we're not actually in San Francisco. So while we did claim that for a while, that on our title is San Francisco, we ended up with candidates who didn't have cars and had to rely solely on public transportation. And we ended up not being able to move forward with them. So we started writing in our job titles things like San Francisco Bay Area, parentheses, Mill Valley. And in our job descriptions, we would write things like Mill Valley, California, just minutes away from San Francisco, right over the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's a good way to help promote your location if you're in a little off area that's not in the exact proper city locations.
I think the same thing can be said for our situation. We're just outside of Washington, D.C., literally on the D.C. line in Maryland. We want to make sure that people in Northern Virginia know that when we say D.C. area, we're not talking about their side of town. So we also do a similar, either we note what metro station we're closest to or the neighborhood that we're in. We have a similar situation. We have an LA office that's in Torrance. And so anybody who knows anything about LA, traffic is a big deal. And so we want to make sure that we're getting candidates that are interested in working on that side of town rather than getting them on the phone, telling them that, and then hearing the dip in their voice whenever they realize it's going to be too far away for them.
All right, thank you guys. So we're going to move on to talking about communicating your culture and values at your company. And at Jazz, this is something we get asked all the time, especially by our customers that are in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, because a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, are very afraid and intimidated by the recruiting challenges they have in front of them when they've got people like Google and Facebook that are usually trying to recruit some of the same candidates, but don't necessarily have the same kind of perks they offer. So let's let Jenny kick off this next slide and tell us a little more about this.
We're really proud of our corporate culture at WeddingWire, and we try to set ourselves apart from the industry, especially in the D.C. area where there are a lot of government jobs and contracting positions. So we really do try to get recognized as a unique corporate culture, and people are starting to seek that out and expect it on the tech side of things. So we really do want to make sure that we're highlighting that information in our job descriptions and in various places on our site. So, obviously we use Jazz. We're very excited about the product, and we try to utilize it as much as possible. So even on our jobs page, we have a lot of information about us as an organization, the type of person that we're looking for. We also leverage our relationship with Glassdoor and note as much as possible our good scoring that we receive on there. So making sure that we're advertising that. We partner with our PR team and our brand department a lot on very many initiatives that we have so that we're marketing ourselves as an employer of choice from the corporate level as well.
All right, so you've optimized your job description, you've nailed the description of your company culture. So let's talk about how you go about attracting and spotting the right people. And at Jazz, we think a lot about this. And let's move on to the next slide here. We've even kind of baked this thought process into our product as something we call performer dimensions. And you don't need Jazz for this, but it helps to chunk up the criteria you're looking for into the categories that we've built out for our system. So we measure things like experience, education, and even the softer things like cultural fit. And if you want to look at kind of the buckets in which we categorize employees and the skills that go along with them, you can go to jazz.co/3 and borrow them and use them as you wish. But the goal here is really to paint yourself a clear picture of the person you're looking for. And you got to do this at the very outset of it, because this ultimately turns into what we call your role model. And this is the persona you want to hire against. And don't underestimate the value of this, because we always say here, when you know who you're looking for, you know when you're done looking. So having that really clear picture of exactly who you want to hire and then hiring against that saves a lot of guesswork, and it kind of informs your gut, because hiring is a gut decision a lot of the time. I'll let Jenny and Eileen take it from here and go through the rest of these.
So we definitely use all of these aspects of the product to build out our job postings. We just really are looking to hire smart and capable people and making sure that we're setting their expectations and that they are confident that they can do the job that we're presenting to them. So again, we kind of look at these job descriptions from a different lens, the lens of the candidate, to make sure that they know what they're getting themselves into, because we know that because of all of our PR and the work that we've done, we are a very attractive workplace, but it is a workplace in the end, and we want to make sure that we're balancing it's going to be a great experience for you and you're going to really love working here, but it's a job, and we're going to have some expectations for your level of knowledge and experience that you're bringing to the table. So just making sure that we're always keeping our eye on those expectations and those goals really helps us to craft the right the right job description to represent the position.
And going off of Jenny's thoughts, from a recruiter's perspective, it is basic recruiter 101 to understand truly what the hiring manager is looking for and elaborate on what the must-haves are versus what the nice-to-haves are. So when writing these job descriptions and going through them, explaining the must-haves in terms of years of experience and hard actual skill sets versus soft skills, or, oh, it'd be great if you had this or this, definitely is beneficial for the candidate's perspective. And then when qualifying a position, it's always nice to ask the hiring manager as well, what defines successful in this role, and what are these metrics to hit this type of success?
All right, let's talk about highlighting the role's impact. So I bet everyone on this webinar isn't trying to hire a mediocre employee, they're trying to hire a true performer. And true performers really like to make an impact, and they thrive on challenges. So give them what they're looking for when you're talking about what they're going to be doing for your company. Tell them why they matter, what they'll be working on, and the kind of things they'll be learning. Obviously, don't oversell it. Be honest, though, and people will respond to it. So instead of the inputs that their job function requires, describe the outcomes that will come as a result of the things that they'll be doing, and you'll get people that are a lot more, have a stronger level of efficacy and really want to get those contributions to your company. So moving on, let's talk about tailoring job descriptions for mobile viewing. And this is a big deal, and I bet you can guess why, but let's have Eileen tell you exactly why.
Sure. So imagine yourself as a job seeker, and when you have downtime, you're most likely on your phone, not really on your laptop. And whether you're sitting at lunch, bored in your actual job, or commuting on public transit, your phone is most likely the first thing you're going to pull out of your pocket and utilize. So as an employer, you want to capitalize on this and make it as easy as possible for these passive candidates or even these very active job seekers to apply for your jobs. Like it says on the slide, 30% of your job descriptions are going to be viewed from a mobile device.
Sure, we consider accessibility as well. I mean, even just for our organization, with wedding planning, we make sure that brides have accessibility to our tools, and we want to make sure that we're considering our job candidates the same way. And not only for mobile, but all accessibility. There are certain jurisdictions that require the job descriptions to be viewable for accessibility to people that have vision challenges. So we make sure that we're following all of the accessibility requirements, including mobile, for convenience.
All right, now let's talk about trying some different things with your job posts. And the headline here says all experiments aren't only for a chemistry lab. And speaking as the marketer of this group, I'm all about constantly trying different things out, finding out what works. And job posts are really no different than any kind of marketing campaign. So Eileen, maybe we hop to the next slide and you can tell us a little bit about how you run experiments and how you apply it to your job posts.
Absolutely. So at Glassdoor, I've been recruiting on a position called a senior software engineer in test, where there was originally one position to start with. We weren't getting many hits on our job title for whatever reason. We weren't getting many candidates coming in. We decided to change up the title to a similar title, but just mixing up the candidate pool to senior test automation engineer. This started doubling and actually tripling our candidate flow pretty quickly. We then opened up actually 3 more of these positions on different teams. So I sat down with the hiring manager, opened up 2 different job descriptions with 2 different titles, the senior software engineer test as well as the senior test automation engineer, and played around with the job description. We played around with explaining the different projects that they'll be working on as well as who they collaborate with, and more description about the teams to personalize it. We're still A/B testing the 2 roles right now, but we are noticing that there is more candidate flow coming in from one job description versus another. So it's actually been a pretty successful experiment that we've been working on.
Awesome, Eileen. So experimenting obviously is super impactful, as you just mentioned, but to be able to accurately monitor the results, you need to have it come from a place of standardization. So Jenny, how can our guests standardize their hiring process so that they can accurately track these things?
Sure. We actually started implementing a new process from the requisition standpoint to make sure that we also had job descriptions for each position, because as a fast growth organization, we did have a lot of positions that were being created new and needed to be filled yesterday. So we really needed to get a handle on that to make sure that we were designating people appropriately for their exemption status, and we're paying them appropriately for the position that we have open. So we wanted to make sure that we had a little bit of a hand in, from the HR perspective, what was being approved and what requisitions were going out. So we actually do have a template that the managers work with our team on to make sure that they're creating the job description appropriately and that they're making sure that they're hitting all of the important marks. Because oftentimes, especially for positions that are being recruited for the first time, the manager doesn't really know what they're going to need, what level of experience they'll be looking for, so they want to have a little bit of flexibility on pulling the different levers. So for example, maybe it's more important for the person to have a few years of experience doing exactly that type of work, but if they don't, it's probably important that they have some industry knowledge at least. So it might be important that we could reduce the lever for the years of experience as long as they have a higher lever on working in the events or wedding industry. So making sure that we're communicating with that hiring manager and then drafting the job posting appropriately enough to show that we're open to hearing from different candidates for different levels. We also make sure that we do have a point person on each team that we work with that understands fully what the expectations are for the position, how long it might take to fill it, because that's really important to be able to communicate, and then also that they're on the same page with the executive for that department, because truly we have had times whenever we've talked to the executive and they're wondering why we haven't filled the position. They're expecting a senior level person, and then we're talking to the people who are on the hiring team, and they're actually dismissing some of the senior people because they were under the impression that they needed to be junior. So really having that first meeting and making sure that you are all on the same page is going to save a lot of trouble and pain in the end. From a tracking perspective, we do track all of the resumes that come in with a funnel report. We show the resumes that have come in, and of those resumes, how many people got phone screened, of those, how many people got in-person interviews, of those who got offers, and then of those who accepted our offers. And we're able to see the percentage of change between each one and then compare that across the department, across positions, across the organization, and in comparison to where we have been in years past. So we do make sure that we're giving the right amount of attention to each position, and all the managers know what the priority of their positions are at any time.
So going off of that, in terms of just how to research this and how to really make sure you're putting up the best type of job description and the most accurate and what's going to bring in the most candidate flow. An example I have is that I was working on a position that was looking for a strong Salesforce admin as well as a strong Marketo admin, pretty niche. So we currently have the position listed as Salesforce-Marketo admin. I Googled this title and realized that we were the only company in the U.S. To have this title. So I decided to Google similar positions on how we could change it up, maybe bring in more candidates, and what could be more beneficial from a recruiter's point in terms of sourcing. So we decided to change our title to Sales and Marketing Operations Manager. With that job title change, we had much higher candidate inflow, as well as it was easier for me as a recruiter to source candidates and say, hey, do you have this current experience? Don't you want to bring it over to Glassdoor?
So it's about wrapping it up. Jazz is extremely pleased to be integrated with Glassdoor and makes it a lot easier for people that are posting their jobs through Jazz to get those jobs syndicated straight into Glassdoor's job board. And hopefully they're all going to be very well-optimized jobs that you're syndicating across to Glassdoor. But Katie, how about you tell us why it's such a good idea for people to be posting their jobs on Glassdoor?
Totally. Hi, guys. It's Katie again. So basically, Glassdoor is a place where candidates are going. They're going there to search for jobs, and they're also going to Glassdoor to research companies. I don't know about you guys, but when I was searching for a job, I was looking for jobs as a job seeker, but I also wanted to know what it was like to work at that specific company. So obvious choice was to come to Glassdoor. That's where I found my Glassdoor job, which is kind of cool. But really, Glassdoor has unique content. So we kind of make sure that candidates are well researched before they actually apply to the job. And because they're so well researched, we figured out that they're the right fit for your company and culture, and it results in a 2 times better applicant quality and 30% lower cost per hire than other leading job boards. We also, with the integration with Jazz, it's pretty cool because you can automatically feed your jobs to Glassdoor for free within the system. But then for an extra, we have, I think it's $149, you can post your jobs directly to Glassdoor from Jazz and access our premium job placements, which includes daily emails delivered to your target candidates. You'll also get one-on-one support from our customer success team, and they work with you to make your job descriptions more attractive. That's kind of an easy tool if you are looking for an option. And we'll include a link in the follow-up to job posting if you are interested in that. But thank you all so much for joining our webinar, and we are going to send out this presentation. Hopefully it helped. Thank you to our speakers. And you'll also see a recording from us and the actual presentation deck. But let's go over some questions. We got a few come in, so let me just go through those quickly. Okay. Let's see. First question, and this can be answered by any of you on the line. So how do you measure the ROI of your job posting? That can be to Eileen, Jenny, Justin, whoever wants to answer that one.
Hi, this is Jenny. We look at it from a granular level because we do collect the data on the number of resumes that come in for our funnel numbers. We actually do designate the source of those and then check it against how much money we spent for that posting. So we break it down to very simple terms and determine how many resumes we were able to get from that posting, because to us, a pool of resumes, the larger the beginning of the funnel is, the more likely it is we'll get more candidates on the end.
Great. Okay, we had another good question here. How do you suggest we emphasize 1 to 5 years of experience? We receive too many senior level candidates, 15, 20, and even 30 years experience or no experience. We indicate 1 to 5 years experience. Your input is valued. Any tips for that?
We typically here at Glassdoor, in terms of mid-level roles, we typically write 3 to 5 years of experience. If we want someone who's more on the senior side, we'll typically say 5 to 7 years of experience. We've noticed that the while some candidates might think that they're overqualified, we'll actually bring in the 3 to 5 years of experience. We'll bring in 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, and then 5 to 7 we'll bring in actually people that are 3 to 7 years of experience.
This may actually be part of a separate question too about pay and whether or not to post salaries. We haven't talked about that yet, but to be honest, you can narrow down the number of applicants and really telegraph the level of experience you're looking for if you do give a range of the salary for the position, and that will really narrow down the number of people who apply, and they'll qualify themselves better based on that information.
Great. Okay, another question here. Have any of you experimented with video job descriptions?
So here at Glassdoor, we're still playing around and trying out new tools. So we have considered video job description. We thought it'd be a great way to kind of showcase our team, showcase who you'd be working with, and make it more personalized. So while we haven't done it yet, I definitely think it's a great idea to mostly hit the millennials who are more interactive and more on the media side of things versus just looking through a job description online.
Totally agree, and I can corroborate. At my last gig, we worked in a pretty esoteric, slightly nerdy tech space, and so trying to recruit that younger crowd was difficult. So what we did was make videos kind of just showcasing the culture, the goofiness of it, and kind of belying the nerdy nature of the product we made, and amplified it through paid promotion on Twitter, and got tons and tons of fabulous candidates through it, and I don't think we would have gotten them another way.
Okay,
We also haven't video job descriptions per se. We've done some video advertising of the organization and highlighted some of the perks that we have. We have a Life at Wedding Wire Facebook group that's open to the public, and we kind of showcase the events and activities that we do through that, and lots of social media activity about our corporate culture, but we don't have video job descriptions.
Okay, great. We have a few questions on mobile. I don't know if any of you can answer this, but you had a tailoring job descriptions for mobile as a headline topic. Does anyone know, do either of you know how to actually do this, or how to optimize for mobile, or how you've done it at your company?
If you have the right ATS and the right job board, it should be doing it for you automatically. And I'm not going to do too much of a shameless plug here, but Jazz definitely does have the ability to optimize for mobile all your job postings. If you're going to do it without an ATS and you're just doing it on your company's website, you're probably going to want to talk to your web development team and see if they're making sure that all the pages are built for mobile.
Great.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment completely. We never had a different ATS than Jazz, formerly known as the Resumator. It sounds like we're talking about Prince here. But I really do encourage anyone who wants to make sure they're optimizing for mobile to communicate with their web development team. Hopefully they have a team that will work with them. But even whenever you're drafting your postings, consider what you like to see when you get resumes and the format of that. So bullet pointed information, nice breaks between the information, so that it's really easy to read and collect the applicable information with a quick look.
Great. We've gotten a few questions about location. Do you have any specific suggestions with job posting when your target is targeting non-local candidates or nationwide?
So this is Jenny. So it feels like there might need to be a little bit more information to answer that question, because if you're targeting positions that can be filled remotely, then that might be a different answer. But generally speaking, if you're targeting people that you want to relocate to a headquarters office and you want to describe what that location is like, then, for example, we would say conveniently located directly above a metro station just outside of Washington, D.C., and then say a little bit about ourselves. Or if it's a remote position, then, you know, anywhere in the Northeast, you can work, you have flexibility of working from a home office, just kind of describing what the employee's experience would be and some of the perks of that location.
Okay, great. Another question here, how do you communicate your ability to sponsor employees on a visa. Our applicants have been confused by the language, but legal has given very specific guidance. Have any of you dealt with that before?
So this is Eileen speaking, and from a recruiting standpoint, we typically would explain that during the phone call. So I would always ask these kind of questions on the visa, on the H-1B, or any immigration questions during the phone call. We typically don't explain it on the job description itself because we don't want to deter candidates from applying.
Okay, great. It looks like you guys can keep asking your questions if you'd like in the question and answers. Here's another question. What are your thoughts on including the company name in the job descriptions for name branding? For example, Target Team Leader. Anyone have thoughts on that?
I don't think it would hurt, especially if it's a brand that is approachable and something that people would want to work for. You know, it would only work in your disadvantage if it's a tough sell.
Okay, great. And then it looks like we have one last question. Is there an optimal length of job description you have discovered works best?
I think probably the shorter the better. Obviously, you want to explain the must-have qualifications, the requirements, and what this person is going to be doing as well as explaining any perks. But you don't want something to be incredibly lengthy because you want it to be very viewer-friendly. If they're checking it out on mobile or web, they don't want to go through all these different must-haves, and if there's one thing that they don't have, then they might not apply. So you want it as user-friendly as possible and short and sweet and to the point.
Okay, great. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to email me, katie.williams@glassdoor.com, and feel free to let us know how the presentation was. Love to get your feedback. And we'll be sending out follow-up emails, like I said, with the recording and the presentation. Thank you all so much for joining. Thanks to the presenters. I appreciate it, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Katie. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.